Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are opening up a file that is, well, honestly, it is going to sit with you.
Oh, yeah.
It is going to hover over you at your desk tomorrow morning or, while you're trying to fall asleep tonight. We are returning to the AI Future series by Jafar Humayun.
The heavy stuff. We are back in the trenches with Humayun.
The heavy stuff. And if you have been with us for our previous breakdowns of his work, you know he does not do sugarcoating.
No, not at all.
He deals in structural reality. He deals in the mechanics of how systems actually break and reform. But today's focus feels different. It is not about infrastructure or energy grids or the geopolitical shuffling of chips. It feels personal, especially if you are someone who identifies as a knowledge worker, a strategist, or just, someone who gets paid to think for a living.
It is deeply personal. We are looking at episode 24 of the series titled The Scarcity Paradox. And frankly, this is the one that usually makes people the most uncomfortable.
Why do you think that is?
Because it challenges the one thing smart people rely on for job security: their intelligence. It questions the very value of the mind itself, but in a very specific economic context.
Before we spiral into that specific anxiety, and we will spiral, believe me.
You will.
We have to follow the protocol. As we always do with this specific author, I need to read the framing disclaimer verbatim. This is the lens we have to wear to understand what we're talking about.
It's the price of admission.
It is. Quote, AI Futures is not a forecast. It's a framework. This series explores how AI may unravel the systems we take for granted, not to alarm, but to challenge assumptions and spark deeper thinking about what comes next under maximum AI adoption. End quote.
I'm glad we do that every time, because the scarcity paradox sounds like a doomsday prophecy if you take it literally.
It really does.
It sounds like a warning of the apocalypse, but it is not. It is a logic puzzle. It is an efficiency equation. We have to treat it like an architectural blueprint, not a horror story.
So let's solve the puzzle. The title is The Scarcity Paradox. When I see that, my brain immediately goes to supply chains. I am thinking we're running out of GPUs, or we are running out of energy, or, God forbid, we are running out of coffee.
Chuckles. Right.
We are used to scarcity, meaning we don't have enough. But Humayun isn't talking about physical goods here, is he?
No. Not at all. He is talking about the bottleneck of the future economy. And, usually when we talk about bottlenecks in business or economics, we say, we don't have enough talent.
Oh, constantly. The war for talent.
War for talent. Every CEO says this in every interview. I can't find enough smart people to solve these hard problems. The paradox here is that Humayun argues we are entering an environment where that is no longer true.
The opposite is true.
Exactly. We aren't facing a shortage of intelligence. We are facing a compression of utility.
Compression of utility. That sounds like consultant speak for you're getting fired.
It is a bit more nuanced than that, but the outcome might feel the same to the individual. Think about the ladder.
The corporate ladder.
Right. We are all conditioned to believe that the ladder to the top is hard to climb because it's competitive. There are other people trying to climb it. But we assume the ladder exists. We assume that if you are smart enough, strategic enough, and you grind hard enough, there is a slot for you in the system.
The room at the top.
Yeah.
The corner office. The seat at the table.
Yes, all of that. But the scarcity paradox argues that under maximum AI adoption, the system itself evolves into something he calls a narrow peak. The structure of the economy changes to require fewer strategic orchestrators. Even though the supply of capable minds, people like you, me, the listener, is staying the same or even growing.
So we have a high supply of smart people. We have a highly educated workforce. More PhDs than ever, more master's degrees.
A huge supply.
But we have a shrinking demand for the actual application of human strategy within the system.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And we have to get the tone right here. This isn't failure. This isn't the economy collapsing. We are not talking about a recession. From the perspective of the institution, the corporation, the government agency, this is optimization.
It's a feature, not a bug.
It is a feature, not a bug. It is structural compression. The system is getting sleeker. It's just getting sleeker in a way that excludes a lot of us.
That is a tough pill to swallow. It's basically saying, the machine is running perfectly, it just doesn't need you to run it anymore.
That's it.
To understand how we get there, though, I think we need to visualize the before state. We need to look at what we are leaving behind. The source material refers to the old model as the pyramid.
The classic corporate pyramid. It is burned into our brains. It's the shape of every org chart since, what, the Industrial Revolution? You have the base, the execution layer, the doers.
The widest part, the foundation, millions of people.
Right. Data entry, customer service, writing basic code, turning wrenches, filing paperwork. It is wide because human latency is high and human bandwidth is low.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you needed a lot of hands to keep the lights on. If you wanted to process 1 million invoices, you literally needed 1,000 people in a room stamping and filing. One human can only do so much.
Right. So the base had to be huge to support the total volume of work. And above them,
you have the middle, the managers, the coordinators, the directors. Now, really think about what a middle manager does in an analog system. I know they get a bad rap, think the office, but functionally, what are they doing?
They're keeping the trains on time. They're making sure the people at the bottom know what the people at the top want. They're passing information up and down.
Exactly. They are information routers. They take the high-level strategy from the top. We need to enter the Asian market. They break it down into tasks. They hand it to the base, check the work, and report back up the chain.
So they're translators.
They are human APIs. They are the glue. They are error correction and signal processing. They translate strategy into action. That's a huge, complicated, and frankly, messy job.
Which is why that middle layer was so broad.
So broad. You needed managers of managers of managers.
And then the tiny peak. The strategists.
The visionaries. The C-suite. The people who look at the horizon and decide where the whole ship is going. A tiny group.
Okay, so that's the pyramid. It makes sense. It's stable. It supports a lot of people, a lot of jobs.
It does.
But Humayun says this shape, the pyramid, is obsolete. Or rather, it's dissolving. He contrasts it with what he calls the AI-optimized spire.
A spire, like a needle. Or, visualize a skyscraper with the footprint of a phone booth that goes up 100 stories.
That feels unstable.
It does, but let's look at the layers again in this new model, the execution base. It is not human anymore. It is automated. AI agents handle the customer service. Robotics handle the logistics. Code writes itself. The need for 1 million doers just evaporates.
Okay, so the base is silicon. We've known that was coming. Automation has been the story for 20 years. But what happens to that broad middle? The information routers, the human APIs.
Deleted. This is the disappearing middle. And this is the part people miss. They think middle management goes away because of budget cuts or, some mean CEO. No, it goes away because coordination is solved by software.
Solved? What do you mean solved?
Solved. You don't need a human to check if the AI agent filed the report correctly. The software is self-verifying. You don't need a human to translate the CEO's vision into 100 little tasks for the coders. The AI does that. So the translation layer, that massive middle block of the pyramid, it just evaporates. It's not needed.
Okay, so you have a robot base and a software middle. The techno-optimist in me says, great, that means we can all move to the top. We can all be strategists now. If I don't have to fill out spreadsheets, I can spend my day thinking big thoughts.
And that is the fallacy. That is the trap. Humayun argues the strategic top does not expand.
Why not? That feels counterintuitive. If we have all this leverage, shouldn't we have a nation of CEOs? Shouldn't every small business have the power of a Fortune 500 company?
Because of the nature of decision-making and, vision, you only need one vision for a system. Think about the leverage involved here. If I have one person setting the vision and a team of 3 people orchestrating the AI, and the AI doing the work of 1,000, why would I need 500 other strategists debating the vision?
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly. It creates noise. It slows things down. The whole point of the Spire is clarity and speed. You have a single point of intent at the top, and it propagates through the system instantly. That creates a Spire, a very sharp, very high point with almost no surface area.
It is organizational flattening taken to its absolute extreme. But I want to be really clear for you, the listener, because this is where the anxiety kicks in. Are we saying people are getting pushed out because they aren't smart enough to be in the Spire? Is this some kind of, meritocracy on steroids?
No. And that is the most important distinction in the entire document. This is not a competency crisis. It is an architectural shift. The system hasn't suddenly decided humans are stupid. It hasn't decided you aren't talented. It has simply evolved to require less human talent to function at max capacity.
It reminds me of the transition from sailing ships to steamships. In the old days, you needed hundreds of sailors. You needed rowers. You needed a guy beating the drum to keep time. You needed a navigator shooting the stars. You needed dozens of guys to just haul the ropes.
A massive human infrastructure just to move the object from A to B.
Right. And now, You have a nuclear engine and a GPS. You still need the captain, maybe a few officers, but you don't need the drum beater. You don't need the rowers.
That is the perfect analogy. And to take it a step further, suppose you have 100 people who are trained to be expert star navigators. They spent their whole lives learning the constellations. In the robo era, they were vital. In the GPS era, they are redundant.
They didn't get dumber.
No, they didn't lose their skill. The skill lost its economic leverage.
They are still great navigators. They just aren't needed to navigate this particular ship.
Exactly. And that leads us to the core concept of this entire deep dive. The term that made me stop reading for a second and just stare at the page. The Strategist Surplus.
The Strategist Surplus. It sounds like an oxymoron. It sounds wrong.
It feels wrong to say it.
It does. Every business book I've read in the last 20 years says strategy is king. We need more innovation, more big picture thinking. Don't get stuck in the weeds, they say. Level up. How can we have a surplus of the thing we value most?
Because value is derived from utility, not from rarity alone. That is the hard economic truth. Humayun writes, and this line is critical, rarity of thought no longer guarantees economic utility.
Break that down.
Just because your thought process is unique or rare or brilliant doesn't mean the machine needs it to run. If your brilliant insight can't be plugged into the Spire, it has no economic value to the Spire.
It's a beautiful solution to a problem that no longer exists.
Or a problem the AI has already solved.
So let's get specific. Who are we talking about here? Who is in this surplus?
Well, let's look at the characters Humayun describes. He isn't talking about data entry clerks or factory workers. He lists thinkers who see systems, architects who redesign paradigms, builders of new models.
These are the high potentials. These are the people you usually fight to hire. These are the people with the MBAs from top schools, the PhDs, the 20 years of hard-won experience.
The smartest people in the room. But in the Spire, the room only has 3 chairs. The institution doesn't need 1,000 minds redesigning the system from the middle out. It needs a tiny circle at the very top to decide the direction, and then the AI propagates that direction instantly.
So if the AI is doing the propagation and the translation,
then the strategy that used to happen in the middle, the interpretation, the local adjustment, the figuring out how to make this vision work in my department, that's all gone.
it's all just one command now.
The AI takes the CEO's vision and applies it to the code instantly. There is no signal loss.
And therefore, no need for the signal boosters.
Correct. And this creates a really strange and frankly painful dynamic. You have these people, let's call them the invisible thinkers. They are brilliant. They are sitting there, maybe in a consulting firm, maybe in a university, maybe in a mid-level role that hasn't been automated yet. They can see the big picture. They know how to fix the problems.
But there's no intake valve.
Exactly. The system has no slot for them.
That is the emotional core of this for me, the experience of being economically invisible. If you are a bricklayer and a robot builds the wall, you see your replacement. You can point at the machine and say, that thing took my job. It's tangible.
It's a physical displacement. It's understandable.
But if you are a strategist, a thinker, you don't see a robot sitting in your chair. You just see the organization closing ranks. You see the meetings disappear from your calendar.
Yeah.
You realize the system it doesn't need your input to run. It's optimized past you.
You don't generate value for that specific topology anymore, and that leads to a profound sense of frustration. It isn't poverty, necessarily, not at first. It's irrelevance.
Yeah.
It's what the source calls capability without a canvas.
Capability without a canvas. I love that phrase, but I also hate what it implies.
It's brutal.
It's the painter with the best brushes, the best paint, the perfect technique, and the gallery just bricked up all the walls.
Or worse, the gallery is now a screen that generates its own perfect art every millisecond. The source outlines 3 specific frustrations for these people, and I bet you, listening right now, will recognize at least one of them. I certainly did.
Okay, let's run through them. I want to hear these scenarios.
The first one is about modeling complexity. The quote is, "You can model complexity, but have no platform to apply it."
Unpack that. What does that look like in the real world?
Think of a data scientist or a systems theorist, someone who really, truly understands deep market dynamics. They have the mental models to solve massive problems. They can see how the housing market interacts with interest rates, interacts with climate change in a way that is, incredibly sophisticated.
Right, they see the whole board.
The whole board. But if they aren't inside the Spire, if they aren't one of the 3 people at the top holding the controls, they can't apply that model. They can build the most beautiful, predictive model in the world, but there's no mechanism to plug it into the decision-making apparatus of the institution.
They are shouting from the sideline.
They're just simulating solutions in a vacuum. They're playing a video game where the controller is unplugged. They have all the skill, but no agency.
It's like being a quarterback with no team to throw to. What's the second one?
You see the system breaking, but no one hires for prevention.
Oh, that's the classic Cassandra curse. Seeing the future and nobody believing you.
It is, but with a technological twist. In an AI-optimized system, the focus is often on speed and execution. The algorithm is optimizing for the next quarter or the next millisecond in high-frequency trading.
Right, short-term gains.
Extremely short-term. A human strategist might look at the output and say, hey, structurally, this is going to cause a massive problem in 3 years. We are creating a bubble. Or we're alienating an entire customer segment.
But the machine is making money now. The charts are going up.
Exactly. And since the prevention role, the risk manager, the compliance officer, the ethical overseer, since those roles have been automated away or deemed friction, there is no one to listen. The insight has nowhere to land. It's an error message that the system is programmed to ignore.
Wow. Okay, and the third.
You are overqualified for execution, but excluded from leadership.
The limbo.
This is the limbo state. This is where so many people are going to find themselves. You are too smart, too experienced to just press the button. And frankly, the AI presses the button better than you anyway. It's faster, it doesn't get tired, it makes fewer mistakes.
Right. The execution is handled.
But you aren't in the C-suite. You aren't in the Spire. So you sit in this uncomfortable middle ground where your capability wildly exceeds your mandate. You have a Ferrari engine, but you're stuck in a parking spot, and the only job available is, washing the windshield.
And Humayun calls this institutional optimization. That sounds so cold, so impersonal.
It is cold.
Yeah.
But from the system's point of view, it is efficient. It is logical. It's just removing parts it doesn't need to function.
But I like the other term he uses better because it speaks to the human experience of it. Strategic underutilization.
That is a validation term. If you are listening to this and feeling this frustration, the framework suggests it isn't incompetence on your part, it is underutilization on the system's part.
It's not you, it's the org chart.
It's not you, it's the org chart.
Yeah.
The system has streamlined to a point where it leaves your capacity on the table. It's wasteful in a human sense, even if it's efficient in a computational sense.
So we have this strategist surplus.
Yeah.
We have this capability without a canvas. The natural next question is, how do you survive? If you want to stay in the Spire or somehow get into the Spire, what do you have to do? Because obviously some people are still running these things. The Spire isn't empty.
No, the Spire's occupied, but the rules of entry have changed completely. We're seeing a major shift in what he calls the bar for relevance.
Okay, so what was the old bar? What got you promoted in 2010?
The old bar was understanding. Think about the last 50 years of the knowledge economy. If you were the person in the room who knew the most facts or understood the history of the market best or had the deepest technical knowledge about your product, you were valuable. You were the sage.
Knowledge is power. That was the mantra for decades.
Right. I know something you don't know, therefore I am valuable. But now, AI is the sage. The AI knows more facts, knows more history, and has deeper technical recall than any human ever will.
It's read every book.
It's read every book, every report, every legal precedent, every line of code ever written. So understanding is no longer the differentiator. It's been demonetized. It's table stakes.
If everyone has a genius in their pocket, being a genius isn't special.
Precisely. So the shift is from understanding to command.
Command. That sounds aggressive. It sounds almost military.
It's not about aggression, it's about agency. It is no longer enough to just have an insight. It's not enough to be right. You have to be able to impose that insight on reality. The source lists 3 specific requirements for this new era of command.
Let's break them down. If you're listening and you want to be relevant in this new world, what is requirement 1?
Influence capital. The source says, and I love this line, it's so stark, ideas without a ship are merely commentary.
Ideas without a ship are merely commentary. That hits hard.
It does. It means you can have the best idea in the world for how to fix the healthcare system. You can have the perfect plan written out. But if you cannot move money, if you cannot allocate resources, if you cannot deploy the AI agents, Your idea is just a blog post.
It's just noise.
It is just noise in a sea of infinite noise. To be relevant in the Spire, you must be able to move the capital. You have to have control over the resources.
So you have to be the captain of the ship, not just the guy who knows where the island is. You need the keys.
Yes, you need the keys to the engine, or you need to be able to convince the person with the keys.
Okay, that's a high bar. What's requirement two?
Orchestrate tools. This is the move from being a deep thinker to a system architect. You can't just write a strategy document anymore. A 50-page PDF doesn't do anything.
It just sits on a server.
Exactly. You have to know how to build the tool chain that executes it. You have to be able to say, I want this outcome, and then actually wire together the AI models and the automated systems and the data pipelines to make it happen. You have to be hands-on with the levers of production.
So it's less about thinking the thought and more about building the machine that thinks the thought.
Precisely. You are the conductor of an orchestra of algorithms. You don't have to know how to play the violin perfectly, but you have to know what the violin is capable of and how to make it play the right note at exactly the right time.
That feels like a very different skill set from what a traditional strategist was trained for.
Completely different.
Okay, and the third requirement?
Lead at scale.
Which means what exactly? Leading a big team?
Not necessarily a team of people. The source puts it vividly, or else you become a solo node shouting into noise. Because the cost of generating content and noise has dropped to zero thanks to AI, the world is flooded with information. We are drowning in it. To be relevant, you have to be able to cut through that. You have to command a network, a platform, an audience, or an organization that amplifies your signal. Your voice has to be structurally amplified.
You need a microphone that is louder than the background hum of a billion bots.
Exactly. This creates a really stark picture. It's what the source calls the stratification of insight.
Stratification. Layers.
Yes.
Like rock formations.
Yes. Relevance is stratifying. You aren't hired for what you know because the AI knows it too. You are hired for what you can command, what you can actually make happen in the physical or digital world. There is a very small layer of commanders at the top and a very large layer of commentators at the bottom.
So if you can't make things happen, if you're just smart, you're in trouble.
You are in the surplus.
Which brings us to the fallout. I mean, this can't be a stable situation. What does society actually look like when you have all these smart people, these surplus strategists, with nothing to do? We're just talking about unemployment numbers here. We're talking about something deeper.
This is the section on the fallout of the unused mind. And the signals are already here, if you look for them. The source lists a few specific phenomena that are popping up right now, which are symptoms of this underlying shift.
One of them jumped out at me immediately because I see it every single time I open LinkedIn. Consultant glut.
Softly, yes. We've all seen it. Consultant glut. Thousands of people, brilliant people, former VPs, former directors, pivoting to become strategic advisors, future-proofing coaches, transformation experts.
Everyone is a thought leader now. Everyone's selling a framework.
But ask yourself, who is buying?
Is anyone buying?
Not really, not at scale. Because the companies they're trying to sell to are becoming these optimized spires. They don't need external strategy. They have the vision at the top and the AI at the bottom. They don't need a consultant to come in and tell them how to organize the middle because the middle is gone.
So you have this massive supply of high-level advice.
And a fundamentally shrinking demand for it. It's a market crash for good ideas.
Wow. Okay, another signal he points to is academic overflow.
This one is tragic in its own way. He frames it as intelligence trapped in institutions that don't interface with real systems. You have brilliant researchers, PhDs, theorists, producing incredible papers that get read by, 12 people?
The publish or perish cycle
Yeah.
that nobody's reading, the impact factor is zero.
They are smart, but they are disconnected from the levers of command we just talked about. They are observing the world, describing the world with incredible accuracy, but they are not steering it. They are in the passenger seat of a car that is driving itself, writing a beautiful description of the scenery going by.
And this has to take a toll. The source talks about the psychological toll. It's not just economic. This is about your spirit.
It calls it mental erosion and cultural detachment.
Mental erosion. That sounds severe.
It is. Think about a purpose-driven person, someone who spent 20 years training their mind to solve complex problems. That is their identity. I am a solver. If you put that person in a world where their problem-solving isn't needed or where an algorithm does it faster and cheaper, they begin to degrade.
Oh, so?
Not intellectually. They don't get less smart. but they degrade spiritually, they feel useless, their core identity is invalidated by the economic reality.
It's like a border collie with no sheep. They start to chew the furniture. They get destructive.
That is actually a very apt metaphor. The mind needs a problem to chew on. If the problems are all being solved by the machine, the mind turns inward, or it finds fake problems to solve.
And cultural detachment, what does that look like?
Strategic minds just tuning out. If you can't contribute to the system, you stop caring about it. Why would you? You retreat into niche communities, or you just check out completely.
The great resignation, but for the mind.
Exactly. You become a passive observer of a world you were trained to lead. You focus on your garden or your sourdough starter or your video games because those are domains where you still have agency. You can still command those systems.
The source uses a specific term for this state, cognitive detachment.
Yes, cognitive detachment. The minds best suited to guide the future are currently disconnected from the levers of influence. We have separated the knowers from the doers in a very permanent, structural way.
And I want to check our tone here, because the instructions were clear and the source is clear. We shouldn't call these people casualties. That implies they are dead or destroyed.
Right. And they're not. They aren't destroyed. They are stranded cognitive assets.
Stranded assets, like an oil field you can't drill.
Or strategic displacement. They are still there. They are still valuable and potential. But they are stranded on an island where the currency they hold, pure strategy, pure insight, is no longer legal tender. You have a suitcase full of gold, but the shop only takes crypto. Your value is real, but contextually useless.
This brings us to the final paradox, the one that ties it all together, the scarcity of missions.
This is the macro view. This is the big picture that emerges from all these smaller pieces. We used to worry about not having enough visionaries. For a century, we said, where are the Steve Jobs? Where are the Einsteins? We need more innovative thinking.
We spent billions on education systems designed to create them, the whole STEM push.
And we succeeded. We have them. We have millions of them. But now we have an abundance of visionaries, but a scarcity of visions that the economy is willing to fund.
Wait, explain that. How can we have a scarcity of visions? There are endless problems to solve. Climate change, poverty, space exploration, curing cancer. The list is infinite.
True. Those are problems. But the economy, the market mechanism as it's currently structured, is only willing to fund a very specific subset of those visions.
Which ones?
Usually the ones that yield high returns through the efficient Spire model, the ones that scale with minimal human friction.
So if your vision isn't a SaaS platform that scales to 1 billion users with 0 employees, it doesn't get funded.
That's an extreme, but yes. The Spire logic demands a certain kind of hyper-efficient, leverage-driven vision. So we have this conditional logic that the source lays out. The problem isn't the supply of smart people. The problem is we've built a world that doesn't know what to do with them.
So the capacity exists. The people are there, ready to go. But the system, the machine, only monetizes a tiny sliver of that capacity, the part that fits its new, narrow architecture.
That is the scarcity paradox. We have an abundance of talent, but a scarcity of application. An abundance of potential, but a scarcity of funded missions. And unless new roles, new structures, or new incentives emerge, those minds just sit there, spinning.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because this is where it gets really practical for the listener. We've painted a picture of the Spire, a lonely top, an automated bottom, and a missing middle. And we've painted a picture of the people left outside the surplus. What does this mean for the future? If you are in the surplus right now, or you see yourself heading there, what is the path forward? Is there one?
I think it raises an important question about the definition of work. If the system no longer needs your labor to maintain it, maybe your role is to challenge it, or to build a different system entirely outside the existing spires.
But didn't we just say that requires influence capital?
Yeah.
That you need a ship. You can't just build a new system from your garage anymore.
Yes, and that is the bottleneck. That is the fight. The struggle of the next decade might not be learning new skills in the traditional sense. It's not about going back to school to learn to code.
It's build a ship. Or find a captain who will let you on theirs.
It might be accumulating the resources to build your own spire. Or finding a new way to democratize command. That's the real challenge.
That is a daunting shift. We are asking people who were trained their whole lives to be employees, good, loyal, smart employees, to suddenly become founders or architects or revolutionaries.
We are, but let's not sugarcoat it. The source material is adamant. This is an optimization. The current path of AI adoption is designed to remove the friction of human coordination. And for many of us, coordination was our job. We were the friction.
We were the friction. That's a humbling way to put it. We were the expensive, slow, error-prone glue that held the pyramid together. And now the pyramid is a solid block of code.
And the spire is rising from it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into episode 24, the Scarcity Paradox, where does this leave us? What's the takeaway?
It leaves us with a clear-eyed view of the structural change. We need to stop waiting for the jobs of 2015 to come back. The roles that were compressed are not just paused, they are deleted from the architecture. The ladder hasn't just been pulled up, the rungs themselves have been removed.
And the minds that were climbing it?
They are quietly displaced, unless they can make that jump from understanding to command, or unless we as a society invent a new economic model that values thinking, even when it isn't strictly necessary for production.
It's a transition from AI automating tasks to AI compressing the very need for human originality itself, at least within the corporate structure.
That is the crux of it, yes.
Which brings us to the closing question. This is the one Humayun leaves us with, and I think it's the one you need to stare at the ceiling and think about tonight.
Lay it on us.
If we have successfully built a world that can execute any vision with a handful of people and 1,000 servers, what do we do with the millions of brilliant minds who were trained to lead, but find there is no one left to follow?
That is the question of the decade, maybe the century.
And it sets us up perfectly for the next deep dive. Because if you think having nowhere to go is bad, wait until you hear about the crisis of direction.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Up next is episode 25, Logic Isn't Enough. We're going to examine the friction of guidance. What happens when we find the minds that could navigate the crisis, but realize the system no longer has a microphone for them to use?
I can't wait for that one. That's a huge piece of the puzzle.
Until then, stay tuned, stay curious, stay systemic.